She sat at the wrong table on a blind date, then discovered a billionaire's dark secret. The night buzzed with a strange energy as Lydia stepped into the crowded restaurant. She hesitated, her heart racing like it was trying to escape. No one should have been inside here at this hour, not after what she had heard. The whispers of what went on in these walls sent chills down her spine. A blind date. The very thought made her stomach twist. But this wasn't just any date. No, this was a dinner with a man rumored to be wealthy enough to write checks that could change lives. The allure was almost magnetic, but the warnings from friends echoed in her mind. Was it all too good to be true? She found the table, the flickering candle casting eerie shadows on the walls. Nothing could prepare her for what was coming. The man sitting across from her had jet black hair and piercing blue eyes that seemed to look right through her. As he spoke, his voice was smooth like silk, but beneath it lay something unsettling. It vibrated with secrets, a subtle gravity that pulled her in and made her skin tingle. The tension in the air intensified, creating a heaviness that pressed down on her chest, leaving her breathless. Between bites of expensive filet mignon and sips of the finest wine, Lydia noticed something odd. The waiter was trembling, his eyes darting nervously at her date. It was a strange sight, one that left her with a lump in her throat. Her curiosity piqued. Why would a seasoned waiter be so intimidated? And then it hit her: a photo. A glossy magazine cover flashed before her eyes, the bold headline reading, "The man behind the fortune, a billionaire with a dark past." Suddenly, she felt the walls closing in around her. Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Lydia's heart pounded louder now. She took a shaky breath, regretting every wrong turn that led to this moment. As she studied him, the man leaned in, a calculated smile spreading across his face. "You know, there are things about me you would never understand." His words hung in the air, thick with implications. A cold sweat broke out on her skin, and as he leaned closer, his breath warm against her cheek, the darkness of the truth loomed larger. What deep, dark secrets lay behind his charming facade? What was she about to uncover, sitting at the table meant for someone else? The thought was electric, and all she could do was brace herself, unsure if she was ready for what the night might reveal. The moment was surreal, the world around Lydia fading into a blur as his voice enveloped her. "You have no idea, do you?" he purred, leaning back in his chair, his enigmatic smile never leaving his lips. The restaurant, filled with laughter and soft music, felt more like a trap now, every shadow stretching unnaturally towards her. "What do you mean?" she whispered, her voice barely escaping her lips. The air had thickened, pressing against her like the weight of an unsaid confession. She didn't dare glance around, afraid of what she might see. Would someone be watching? She burned with embarrassment, her cheeks flushed, but her instincts screamed at her to run. Suddenly, the waiter returned, a tray of desserts shaking in his hands. His eyes darted between her and her date, panic etched into every line of his forehead. Lydia watched as her date's attention shot to the young man, his expression tightening like a fist. "You can go," he commanded, and the waiter, visibly relieved, quickly retreated without uttering a word. Lydia's heart raced faster, and she could hardly chew the pie before her. How could he exert such power over everyone? What dark influence lay beneath his polished exterior? "You talk like you're a god," she managed to say, the words tasting bitter as they passed her lips. That he chuckled, a sound hollow and cold. "Let's just say I have resources most people can only dream of." His voice trailed off, and for an instant, she felt a chill run down her spine. It all felt sinister, as though he was not just a wealthy man but something far more dangerous. "What do you want from me?" she asked, her hands trembling now, her appetite long gone. "I want you to trust me, Lydia," he replied, those ice-blue eyes slicing through her defenses. "Trust me enough to know that the truth is much more complicated than you might think." Trust? The word tumbled out like a stone. And why would I trust someone who seems to thrive on fear? His smile faltered for just a moment, a crack in the facade that rattled her even more. Fear can be a powerful motivator just as love can be. They're two sides of the same coin. Is that what this is? A game? Lydia felt a lump in her throat, her instincts screaming to escape this labyrinth of deceit. "Call it what you will," he said with an unsettling calm. "But anyone who sits at the table with me must play by my rules." It was clear there were depths to his world she couldn't begin to fathom. A shivering realization gnawed at her, she was in over her head. But a flicker of defiance ignited within her. "I'm not afraid of you," she said, though her voice wavered slightly. "Really? You might want to reconsider," he said, leaning closer again, the candlelight reflecting in his eyes, making them glint like shards of ice. "You still don't understand the real danger you're in." Suddenly, the restaurant doors swung open, revealing a figure dressed in a long trench coat. The bustling atmosphere faded into an eerie silence, all heads turning to witness the new arrival. A surge of tension rippled through the room, and Lydia's breath caught in her throat. She scanned the faces, confusion swirling within her. Who was this person? What was their connection to him? Lydia's eyes darted back to her date, and she caught a flicker of something terrifying: fear. Anger? Before she could piece it all together, he whispered low, urgent. "Stay here. Don't move." And as the figure walked toward them, shadows dancing across the walls, Lydia felt dread settle deep in her gut. She was no longer sure who the real threat was, her date or this mysterious stranger. Questions flooded her mind like a storm, but as she faced the unknown, one rang clear: what was about to unfold? The figure continued to approach, each step punctuated by the hushed whispers that now filled the restaurant. Lydia's heart thudded, a wild drum echoing in her ears. Who was this newcomer? The sleek trench coat hugged his form, the collar framing a face obscured by shadows. As he drew closer, the tension thickened, wrapping around Lydia like a vice. Her date's fingers twitched on the table's edge, his eyes locked onto the man with an intensity that sent a shiver racing through her. "Follow my lead," he hissed, though there was no sincerity in his tone. Instead, it felt more like a threat layered with urgency. But Lydia's instincts screamed for her to flee. The old saying about feeling trapped in a wolf's den echoed in her mind. Clenching her fists in her lap, she felt the heat of adrenaline surge through her veins. The dim lights seemed to pulse, the flickering shadows forming grotesque shapes that mirrored her mounting fear. "Don't you dare help him," the stranger suddenly barked, and everyone flinched at the sharpness of his voice. It pierced through the awkward silence like a knife, leaving a taut stillness in its wake. Lydia's breath hitched, eyes darting toward the exit, then back to the man approaching. "What do you want?" her date demanded, his tone sharp as a blade. The tension simmered just beneath his composed facade, threatening to boil over. This was a clash, a storm brewing, and she felt like a mere pebble caught in the middle of it. The stranger's mouth curled into a smirk, confident and self-assured. "I'm not here for you," he replied, his icy gaze fixing upon Lydia. "I'm here for her." A chill cascaded down Lydia's spine. The word sent her reeling. She was the focus of this showdown. Every instinct screamed for her to bolt from the table. "Don't listen to him," her date snapped, shooting a glare at Lydia as if she'd already made an awful mistake. "He's not what he seems." "Neither are you," Lydia whispered, almost involuntarily, fueled by her growing awareness of the danger surrounding her. Before her date could respond, the stranger took a few steps closer, determination radiating from him. "You're in over your head, Lydia. You think you know who he is, but believe me, you don't." The words were dripping with implications, a threat wrapped in mystery. "Enough." Her date said, his voice strained, nearly breaking. You need to leave. This doesn't concern you. But Lydia felt the pull of truth in the stranger's words. Instinctively, she leaned forward, captivated despite herself. What do you know about him? The stranger studied her for a brief moment, then leaned in, his voice dropping to a low murmur. He belongs to a world where lives are toyed with, a game of shadows and lies. Trust is a commodity, and trust from him comes with a price you're not ready to pay. The cocktail of fear and curiosity swirled in her stomach. Her veins pulsed with the reality of his words. What hidden depths lay beneath her date's charming smile? What secrets had he buried? As the restaurant hummed with tension, a faint sound caught Lydia's ear, a flicker of movement beyond the stranger, a glimpse of another figure slipping in through the doors, cloaked in darkness and purpose. Lydia, there was an urgency in her date's voice now, panic creeping in as he spotted the newcomer. Trust me. Whatever he tells you is a lie. The stranger shot a knowing look over his shoulder, and Lydia's pulse raced. This was a threshold. She could either retreat into the safety of ignorance or step deep into a world that threatened to swallow her whole. But as another beep echoed from the gathering figures, a sense of confrontation loomed closer, and she knew, whatever happened next, she couldn't stay silent any longer. The unspoken challenge hung in the air. Whose truth would she embrace? As the figures closed in, her decision loomed larger. Then the lights flickered violently, a blackout. Murmurs turned into gasps. Shouts flew. Chaos erupted. And in that moment, with darkness rushing in, Lydia felt as though she was teetering on the edge of something monumental. What awaited? In the shadows would change everything. The darkness was dense, swallowing the restaurant whole. Lydia's heart raced, each thump echoing in the quiet. She felt her way along the table as panic swelled within her. A clamoring voice broke through, but it was impossible to tell who was speaking. Get down! The stranger yelled, and in that split second, something crashed against the far wall, sending a spray of glass shattering into the air. Lydia ducked instinctively, her hands scrambling to shield her face. It was a cacophony of gasps and cries. She could barely see the outlines of bodies, faces illuminated by the frantic glow of cell phone screens. There were no rules now, they were all just trying to survive. A figure brushed past her, and she managed to grab a hold of something, a wrist, perhaps? She squeezed tight, desperate for connection in the chaos. Panic hung heavy in the air, suffocating and electric. Lydia. We need to go. The voice was her date's, but it was edged with fear. His panic sent an ice-cold wave through her. Where? She yelled back, her words swallowed by the noise of the crowd. Follow me. He shouted, and the insistence in his tone dug deep into her gut. Was he leading her to safety or deeper into danger? As they stumbled through the dimness, Lydia's thoughts raced. The stranger's words echoed in her mind, twisting like a knife. A game of shadows and lies. They broke through the fray, stepping into a narrow hallway. The noise behind them faded, replaced by the faint sound of muffled steps and angry shouts. The unfamiliar labyrinth of the restaurant now felt like a maze closing in on them. Lydia, listen to me. Her date turned abruptly, desperation flashing in his eyes. We don't have much time. If he finds you, who? That man? She interjected, fury rising. You're the one I can't trust. What are you hiding? His face contorted, and for a moment, she thought she saw a flicker of truth beneath the surface, then it vanished. You don't understand. It's you who don't understand. She spat, her anger born of confusion and fear. You're acting like I'm in danger because of him. What if it's really you? What if he's here to protect me? With that, she stepped away slightly, her voice gaining strength in the uncertainty. Me? Protect you? His laugh was harsh, filled with incredulity that grated against her skin. I'm the only one keeping you safe right now. We need to keep moving. Surrounded by shadows, Lydia felt lost in an enigma. The walls seemed to close in around her, and with each heartbeat, she felt her sense of safety slip away. Suddenly, the clamor rose again, punctuated by the sound of heavy boots approaching rapidly. Lydia's blood ran cold. The stranger could be back. Lydia. A different voice, smooth yet commanding, called her name, pulling her focus. Emerging from the shadows was the trench-coated figure, his presence radiating an imposing calm amidst the chaos. They're coming. Let me help you. In that moment, her heart raced as the tension snapped with a jolt of instinct. Here was danger and perhaps salvation, all at once. Trust him? She thought, glancing from her date to the stranger. Are either of them truly the protector I need? Then, she heard the unmistakable sound of a gun being cocked. Realization dawned as she faced the two men, each representing a different path, each bearing secrets that could upend her entire life. Darkness loomed all around, and quick decisions lay ahead. Who would she trust when everything teetered on the edge? As fear gripped her once more, that familiar phrase echoed in her mind, "Trust is a commodity." Which one of these men would place a value on her safety? In that moment, everything she thought she knew was about to unravel, and just as quickly, shadows shifted once more, and an impulse surged through her. The choice lay heavy in the air. Would she dare follow the stranger, or would she cling to the familiar? Lydia's breath quickened as the tension thickened, wrapping around her like a vice. She swayed slightly, caught between the dangerous allure of the stranger and the familiar yet treacherous veneer of her date. The gun click reverberated in her ears, a sharp reminder of the reality they were caught in. "Lydia, I swear I'm trying to protect you." Her date insisted, his voice strained, almost cracking under pressure. She could see the desperation etched across his face, glistening with sweat in the dim light. But then the trench-coated figure took a step closer, a predator poised to strike. She needs to make a choice, and fast. His voice was cool as ice, contrasting sharply with the frantic energy around them. The chaos was creeping back into the hallway, the sounds of screams echoed from outside, valiantly battling against the silence they had landed in. "Why should I trust you?" Lydia shot back, her voice trembling but laced with defiance. She was standing at the precipice of fear and bravery, and she had to leap. "You could both be lying." "Trust is a risk," the stranger replied, his gaze steady and unwavering. "But so is waiting." Without realizing it, Lydia's eyes narrowed, drawn to the hard serendipity of the situation. Could the man in front of her really be the lifeline she needed? Her date shifted restlessly beside her, still holding her wrist, as if tethering her to the only semblance of normalcy left in this unstable world. The heavy boots from before were growing closer, punctuating the air with dread. It felt like a countdown, the seconds dripping away like melting ice. "You have to decide." A fire enlivened the trench-coated man's voice as he glanced back toward the entrance. "They won't stop until they find you." Lydia's thoughts raced as she fought against uncertainty. What if they're both trapped in this nightmare, tools of someone else's game? She could feel the heat of panic coiling in her gut, yet she stood motionless, a statue caught in the storm. "I'm getting you out of here," her date demanded, yanking on her arm and pulling her toward him, but the energy between them felt warped now, an exchange laced with growing suspicion. Lydia tensed, feeling the gravity of her world slipping away. "Do you have any idea what's at stake here?" "Do you?" she retorted, anger bubbling over. She tore her wrist from his grip, squared her shoulders, and stepped away, feeling the draw of the trench-coated figure's intense stare. "What does any of this mean? Why me?" The stranger looked at her with an intensity that made her heart race, not from fear, but an unexpected thrill. "You're the only one who can untangle this web. They're after you not for revenge, but for something deeper." He hesitated, the weight of his words hanging heavy between them. "You're not just anyone, Lydia. You have a part in this. Stop. Both of you." Her voice wavered, but just enough to demand their attention. The shrieks and chaos outside suddenly seemed like distant thunder, eclipsed by the throbbing urgency in the room. Then came the unmistakable sound of a crash, a window shattering somewhere nearby. All three of them froze at the noise, instincts teetering on the brink of fight or flight. "Now!" the trench-coated man whispered urgently, "we have to move." Lydia's heart raced, torn between fear and an intoxicating rush of adrenaline. Suddenly, she felt critical and exposed. Would she leap into the unknown with this enigmatic stranger or cling to the past she couldn't quite trust? Before she could decide, the heavy footsteps sounded at the doorway. The hunters were closing in. "Do you trust me?" the trench-coated figure asked, kneeling to catch her gaze with fierce conviction. Lydia's entire world hinged on that question. Should she follow the unknown, the man who spelled danger and possibility in equal measure, or retreat to something she thought she understood? What if what waited behind her meant nothing against the abyss growing darker before her? She inhaled deeply, rehearsing her answer silently. But before the words could form, the door splintered open, and the storm surged forward, shattering everything she thought she knew. The door crashed against the wall, splintering wood and sending shards flying like shrapnel. Lydia flinched back, instinctively retreating from the looming threat as shadows poured into the room. The heavy boots thudded steadily forward, relentless and menacing. Lydia's heart thundered in her chest. The crowd outside was a wild cacophony of panic, but it faded into a dull roar, eclipsed by the very real danger now standing before her. The trench-coated man sprung up, his body between her and the dark figures stepping over the threshold. "Get down!" he barked, as he reached for something hidden beneath his coat. Lydia ducked instinctively, the adrenaline flooding her veins like fire. Her date, wide-eyed and panicking, staggered backward, lost in a frantic effort to make sense of the chaos engulfing them. "Who are you? What do you want?" one of the intruders demanded, his voice cold, cutting through the haze of panic like a knife. The figure, dressed in a black hoodie, revealed a glinting knife, its blade catching the dim light. Lydia's throat tightened, the intensity of the moment squeezed the air from her lungs. "No one has to get hurt," the trench-coated man said, his own hand revealed with a gun aimed steadily at the intruder. "You want her, you'll have to go through me." Lydia's eyes darted between the two men, the fear for her safety now mingling with an unsettling curiosity about the stranger protecting her. She didn't know who he was, but the fierce strength radiating from him made her pulse race with something far more intense than fear. "Stop! This isn't worth it!" Lydia shouted, her voice rising above the chaos. She wasn't just a bystander anymore. Somehow, she knew she needed to take control, even though every instinct screamed at her to hide. "I can go with you. Just let him go." "Lydia, no." Her date cried out, reaching for her just as another intruder slipped in, squeezing past the first. With a swift motion, he lunged toward her, but the trench-coated man reacted faster. He blocked the attack, his body moving like a coiled spring. Gunfire exploded in the small room, shocking Lydia into stillness. The crack echoed, her heart matching its rhythm. A split second later, the first intruder crumpled to the floor, his knife clattering beside him. The remaining men hesitated, confusion rippling through them. "Run!" the stranger shouted, rushing toward Lydia, yanking her into motion. She stumbled forward, propelled by pure instinct, her feet barely keeping pace as they darted through the door the intruders had just burst through. They dashed down a narrow hallway, the sound of chaos echoing behind them. Lydia couldn't catch her breath. Sharp, desperate gasps filled the air as they raced toward the far end. "What do I do? Where do we go?" she managed to ask between breaths. "Just trust me," he replied, his eyes never leaving the path ahead. They reached a heavy door, the kind you'd see in an old movie. The trench-coated man pushed it open, leading her into a dimly lit back alley. The smell was a mix of grease and something rotten. It was a stark contrast to the frenzy they had just escaped. You have to keep moving. His voice was urgent, laced with panic. They'll follow us. We need a plan. Lydia glanced back, fear twisting her stomach. Her heart raced, knowing there was no turning back. Not now. Why me? She whispered again, the question hanging thick between them. Because they want something only you can give them, he admitted, his voice dropping to a whisper. Something what? What do you mean? But before he could respond, another loud bang erupted from down the alley. Shadows surged forward again, and panic surged through Lydia. Run! He ordered, shoving her ahead of him as the chase continued anew. As they bolted deeper into the night, Lydia's mind reeled. What did she hold that was so valuable? The cold night air bit at her skin, but it was the chilling uncertainty of the truth that had her shivering as their escape became a deadly race against time. Was she just another pawn in this escalating nightmare? With the echoes of danger trailing behind them, Lydia realized there was no escape without answering the mysteries flooding her mind, and every second counted. What awaited them in the shadows ahead? The chase was on, and Lydia had a feeling the real danger was just beginning. Lydia had always imagined blind dates would be filled with awkward silences and nervous laughter, not this ruthless chase through rain-slicked city streets. Her pulse was a wild drumbeat as they sprinted, weaving through stray cats and garbage bags, the darkness closing in around them. Where are we going? She gasped, glancing back. The shadows were relentless, their footsteps echoing on the cobblestones like a dark symphony. The trench-coated man didn't reply, eyes fixed ahead. Do you have a name? She shouted, trying to break through the suffocating fear wrapping around her. Just call me Alex, he said, his voice strained. Alex, I need to know what's happening. She felt a surge of courage, bolstered by his proximity. What do they want from me? The less you know, the better, he replied curtly. But we can't stop. Not yet. Lydia stumbled, her legs burning with fatigue, but adrenaline pushed her on. She caught sight of a narrow alley branching off to their right, a possible escape. This way. She urged, prying herself away from impending disaster. Alex followed her, the weight of the chaos inching ever closer. As they fell into the darker passage, Lydia's mind raced. Why her? Just a regular girl looking for love, now entangled in a nightmare. The realization hit hard there was something more beneath the surface of her date. She felt the icy chill of something sinister lurking beneath her ordinary life, the alley twisted and turned, graffiti-covered walls looming like silent witnesses. They pressed on until Alex pushed open a rusted door, leading them into a dimly lit storage room. Filthy crates were stacked against the walls. It felt like a momentary sanctuary, but Lydia knew better. Are you safe here? She whispered, her breath coming in shaky gasps. The air was musty, filling her lungs with dread. For now, Alex replied, glancing at the door. His gun remained drawn, a comforting but bleak reminder of their predicament. But they will find us. Lydia's heart sank. Who? Why? Please, I need answers. They think you have something they want. I can't tell you everything, he murmured, running a hand through his hair in frustration. It's complicated. Complicated? You could have fooled me. She snapped, exasperated by his evasiveness. I'm the one in danger here. You don't understand. His eyes met hers, and something shifted in that moment, a flicker of vulnerability. This is bigger than just you and me. There are powerful people involved who won't stop until they get what they want. Tension thickened the air around them. A muffled thud echoed from the other side of the door, sending Lydia's heart into overdrive. What do they want from me, Alex? She pressed urgently. You're connected to a deal gone wrong. A hidden fortune, a betrayal. And they think you know where it is. Why would I know anything about that? Panic welled inside her again, swirling with fear and confusion. Because your date he's more than just an ordinary guy. He's tied to something dangerous, and you walked right into it. Lydia's mind reeled. The friendly face across the table at that restaurant had hidden a labyrinth of secrets beneath a charming smile. Before she could reply, the door rattled violently as someone on the other side slammed into it. Lydia's breath caught in her throat. We need to hide. Alex grabbed her arm, pulling her behind a stack of crates just as the door crashed open. The dim light spilled in, illuminating menacing figures stepping inside. Lydia could hardly breathe, each heartbeat loud in her ears like a war drum. Search everywhere. She has to be here. One of the men shouted, his voice like gravel. I can't stay here. Lydia whispered, panic gripping her. Yes, you can, Alex hissed, urging her deeper into the shadows. Trust me. We'll wait for the right moment. But as endless dread washed over her, Lydia knew one thing: the shadows of the past were closing in. And only when the truth was finally revealed could they hope to escape. Could she unravel the mystery and find a way out? Or would the darkness consume everything she held dear, in a world where betrayal lurked at every corner? One question loomed above all: would she survive the approaching storm? Lydia's heart raced as she pressed her back against the crates, trying to silence her breath while the men moved closer. The flickering beam of a flashlight cut through the dim light, illuminating patches of dust and rust on the concrete floor. Each step felt like a crushing weight, adding to the fear coiling in her chest. We need to get out of here, she whispered, barely able to form the words. They'll find us. Alex shook his head, keeping his gaze fixed on the intruders. Just hold tight. If we make a sound. The muffled voices outside turned into a chaotic buzz of commands, and someone shouted, there's a back door. Search it. Adrenaline surged through Lydia as they exchanged horrified looks. There was no doubting it now, time was running out. She couldn't remain a bystander in this nightmare. We have to move, she insisted, her voice barely a whisper. Now. Before Alex could respond, the flashlight swept toward their hiding spot, sending a jolt of panic through Lydia. The beam froze on them for a fraction of a second, and the man holding it lunged forward, shouting, there. Run. Alex's voice tore through her shock, and instinct kicked in. She bolted, pushing through a narrow space between the crates just as the men lunged at them. They stumbled into a hallway, dim and smudged with the remnants of what life once flourished there. Lydia's breath came in sharp gasps, fueled by both fear and determination. She could hear footsteps pounding behind them, heavy and relentless like a predator closing in on its prey. Keep going. Alex urged, glancing back as he led her further into the darkness. What's behind all of this? Lydia managed to choke out, desperation creeping into her voice as she tried to catch up with his long strides. Why me? There's a reason they think you know about the fortune, he said, a flash of frustration crossing his features. Don't you see? You met him for more than just a date. Her pulse quickened. Who? The man I met? Yes. He's in deeper than he let on. You're a wild card in a game that's gotten out of control. On instinct, she grimaced at the thought of that handsome face, now grotesquely tangled in betrayal. But at the moment, she had to focus on survival. She pushed those thoughts away. There would be time for reckoning later. They reached another exit, but just as they approached the door, it flew open, revealing more armed figures who wore expressions of twisted determination. Get them! One of them shouted. Back! Alex shouted as he shoved Lydia behind him, brandishing his weapon. The confrontation unfolded fast, gunfire erupted, echoing through the narrow corridor. Lydia felt the sharp sting of adrenaline pushing her into a wild run. Through here. He pulled her into an adjacent room, which appeared to be an office of some sort, strewn with old furniture and stacks of paper. Is this safe? She panted, trying to catch her breath. For now, he said, scanning the room. We need to barricade the door. As they frantically pushed a desk against the entrance, a thought crashed down on her like a wave. What if I don't know anything? What if this is all a mistake? His eyes narrowed, intensity radiating from him. Trust me. They won't stop searching until they have what they want. If you were just a regular date, they wouldn't be chasing you. There's more to this. What do they think I know? She pressed, feeling the walls of her world closing in. They think you're hiding secrets. Suddenly, a loud crash resonated from the door, followed by angry shouts. They had to be on them any second now, and panic clawed up Lydia's throat. We're out of time, Alex said, glancing back towards the door, gauging their next move. We need to find a way out. There's a window. What if they see us? Then we fight. Heart pounding, she felt her fear morph into something stronger. What did it take to survive? As they prepared to move, a chilling realization hit her. She might not just find herself fighting for her life but unveiling a tangled web that could shatter everything she thought she knew. The reality of her situation crashed down like the breaking glass behind them. In that moment, Lydia felt the weight of her choices shifting, as if fate itself held its breath. Would she unveil the secrets that tied her to this tangled web, or would she become another victim swept away in the darkness? The sound of pounding footsteps grew louder, drowning out Lydia's frantic heartbeat. She felt the floor vibrate beneath her, each step echoing like a death knell. With one last push, they managed to shift the desk against the door just in time. What now? She gasped, breathless and trembling. Climb through the window. Alex ordered, pointing as he glanced back at the door. I'll hold them off. No. You can't do this alone. Her mind raced, images of him standing there bravely while chaos ensued flooded her thoughts. Just trust me. His voice was firm but laced with urgency. Go. With a mix of terror and resolve, she approached the window, its glass dirty and cracked. She could feel his presence behind her, steadying her as she took a leap of faith. Climbing up, she hesitated, peeking back at him just as he pulled a knife from his belt. Get out of here. He paused for a second, fire in his eyes as he stared intently at her. I'll find you. In that moment, Lydia hesitated, a churning knot in her stomach. Yet she understood there was no choice. It was either safe escape or being caught and dragged back into the nightmare. Pressing her palms against the cold glass, she pushed herself through, her heart racing with each motion. The night air hit her like a splash of icy water, and she gasped as she landed on the ground outside. She tumbled into a roll, the rough terrain scratching her palms. Climbing to her feet, she looked back through the window just in time to see the door burst open. Alex! She shouted, but the sound died in her throat as adrenaline flooded her senses, urging her to run. From the surrounding darkness, she took off, racing into the shadows of the alleyways. Heart pounding, she forced herself to move. Each footfall echoed in her ears, urging her forward away from the distant flashes of desperation behind her. As the adrenaline surged, confusion gripped her mind. Why me? She whispered, struggling to comprehend the weight of Alex's words. What secrets did they think she held? She half stumbled, half ran through the maze of alleyways, eyes wide, scanning for any sign of safety. A flicker of light caught her attention, spilling from a nearby building. It looked like a diner, its retro neon sign flickering a desperate welcome as if promising refuge. She darted inside, pushing through the door and sliding behind the counter, her breath heaving as she glimpsed the bustling interior. The diner was alive with late-night customers laughing over coffee, unaware of the storm brewing just outside. Lydia? A voice came from the far corner, and her heart dropped. She turned, forcing herself to breathe as she focused on the familiar figure seated at the booth. Ben, her date from last week. What are you doing here? She gasped, panic consuming her. Are you okay? His brow furrowed as he stood up, concern written all over his face. You look no time for that. she interrupted, glancing back toward the door. "They're coming." "Who?" "Bad people. I need your help." He took a step closer, his eyes searching hers. "Help with what?" Before she could answer, the door swung open, and a shadow fell across the diner, forcing Lydia to duck behind the counter. Her pulse pounded in her ears as Ben, sensing the danger, moved to shield her, blocking her view. "What's happening?" he insisted, glancing toward the entrance where the men stood, surveying the room. Lydia's breath quickened again. She could see silhouettes forming in the doorway, adrenaline pounding like a drum. "Hang tight." Ben's voice was a deep whisper as he leaned closer to her. She felt her heart skip wildly. What did Ben truly know about her past, and more importantly, about this night? In an instant, everything she thought she understood was spiraling out of control. As the men scanned the diner, it hit her: could Ben be the key to unraveling this entire mess, or with him pulling her deeper in, would she get ensnared in another web of deception? The air was thick with tension, and Lydia prepared herself for what lay ahead. The bright diner filled with the hum of casual conversation seemed like a haven, but for Lydia, it felt more like stepping onto a battlefield. She huddled behind the counter, sweat trickling down her spine as she darted glances at the looming figures by the door. They were searching, staring right through the room, eyes sharp as knives. Ben crouched next to her, confusion etched on his face. "What do you mean, bad people? Who are they?" His instinct to protect surged to the forefront, but Lydia felt trapped in a web of unexplainable truths. She shook her head, heart racing. "I was on a blind date, and it turned out he's not just any man. He's hiding something, something dangerous." "Dangerous? Like criminal? Like life-threatening?" she hissed, stealing another look at the door. It felt like they were being hunted. Her mind slipped back to Alex, the trench-coated enigma who had plunged her into this chaos. Did he escape? Was he safe? Panic churned in her stomach as that faction of the unknown hovered above like a dark cloud. "Lydia, we need to get you to safety," Ben urged, glancing back at the intruders. "If they want you, we need to move." Before she could respond, the gang of dark figures swept into the diner, eyes narrowed in hostility. Her pulse quickened, and dread surged through her. Clinging to Ben's arm felt irrational, but she couldn't let go. The danger bent the air around them like a taut string. The leader, a man with a scar running down his cheek, held a commanding presence. "We're looking for a woman," he called out, voice full of menace. The bustling atmosphere of normalcy faded, leave only an eerie stillness that left everyone breathless. "Lydia," Ben urged under his breath, eyes wide, fierce with determination. "You need to trust me now." A rush of adrenaline surged through her as she registered the depth of his gaze. Could Ben be her salvation, or would he pull her deeper into this maelstrom? Suddenly, she realized she was running short on time. "Ben, if I'm gone, promise you'll find me," she whispered, feeling the words slip through her lips without hesitation. The gravity of her request meant that in this twisted game of shadows, she was passing the torch of responsibility to him. "What are you talking about?" He frowned, but she cut him off, adrenaline fueling her voice. "Just cover for me. I have to find a way out now." "Lydia, no." But instinct had already sparked. She slipped from behind the counter and darted for the staff-only door across the diner. She heard Ben's voice calling after her, but her feet were moving before her brain could process the rational fear that clawed at her. She pushed through the door, slipping into a narrow hallway illuminated by flickering fluorescent lights. Behind her, she could hear the chaos unfold. Tables slamming against the floor, shouts, the crash of glass breaking, then a gunshot. Her heart dropped. She couldn't look back. Escape was her sole focus now. Just ahead, she spotted an emergency exit. Lydia flung it open, gasping for clean air as she dashed into the night cold, surreal, and heart-pounding. This was real. She was running for her life. As the door swung shut behind her, the sounds began to fade, swallowed by the city outside, but there was no safety yet. She sprinted down the alley, dodging dumpsters and the stench of refuse, each step echoing with urgency. The world blurred around her. She thought of Alex, of the danger that seemed omnipresent, and her mind spun with crazy theories and the shadows dancing at the edges of her vision. And then, she heard the unmistakable sound of footsteps. Heavy, rushing rhythms in the distance, the threat re-establishing itself, a persistent hound closing in on its chase. Lydia darted into an overgrown patch of bushes, heart launching into her throat as she made herself as small and silent as possible. The footsteps thundered closer, frantic flashes of light sweeping over the alley, casting her in momentary flashes of dull illumination. She has to be somewhere around here. A voice barked. Panic surged at the sound. Was it Ben? Had they found him? No. She whispered fiercely to herself, despair twisting her insides. She had to find a way to survive this, to break the chokehold of darkness closing in. Suddenly, a voice interrupted her racing thoughts. Lydia. It was Alex. Liquid relief poured through her as he emerged from the shadows, breathless yet alert, urgency painting his every feature. Come on, I've found a way out, he urged, his voice strong, yet underlined with something softer, something almost desperate. What about Ben? She blurted, faltering. They're after him. There's no time. He'll be okay if he's smart. His eyes locked onto hers, a flicker of something deeper unspoken in that moment. Right now, it's you and me. We have to move before they find us. Something fierce ignited in Lydia. She nodded, her instincts directing her into that familiar uncertain terrain. She couldn't waste this chance, not again. Taking a deep breath, she stepped into the shadows beside him, knowing that answers waited on the other side. As they dashed into the dark street, her heart raced, not just from fear but with a torrid mix of determination and resolve. This was her choice, her fight. As they disappeared into the night, a fiery new purpose ignited inside her. The web of secrets would unveil soon enough, she would unravel it, all the dangers, the threats, and whatever depth lay behind every person she met. But first, they needed to escape and survive the night. This was the turning point. And in the game of shadows, she was ready to step into any light. You need to subscribe now. Don't miss the next exclusive stories waiting just around the corner. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm and help the channel grow. Flood the comments section with your reactions, theories. What do you think will happen next? And for the love of everything, instantly share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. This is the moment to show your support. Don't wait even one more second. Be part of the adventure.